be a crackdown on people claiming benefits because of their mental health? The number's 0207 862 2222. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair fears too many people who are out of work and claiming sickness benefits due to mental health conditions may simply be struggling with the pressures that come with everyday life. Take a look at this.
I think we have become very, very focused on mental health. And with people self-diagnosing on mental health, we're spending vastly more on mental health now than we did a few years ago. And it's hard to see what the objective reasons for that are. And if we're not careful, we get into a position where people, life has its ups and downs and everybody experiences those. And you've got to be careful of encouraging people to think they've got some sort of condition other than simply confronting the challenges of life.
Tony Blair's remarks come as the government reportedly wants to slash the disability benefits bill, which is expected to rise to £35 billion by the end of this parliament. Mental health and behavioural disorders make up most of these claims. And according to the IFS, the number of under 40s who started receiving payments on mental health grounds rose by 150% after the pandemic. So do you think Tony Blair has a point? Paula, this idea of life, life can be so tough.
Yes.
People have terrible things to withstand, divorce and bereavement, disappointment, miscarriage, infertility, all kinds of losses that make life very, very difficult. But Tony Blair's saying that's just part of life and it doesn't entitle you to claim benefit for mental health disorders. Do you think he has a point?
Well, on that statement, he'd be absolutely right. Going through the ordinary day-to-day life wouldn't mean that you could claim benefits. And of course, that is not how you are able to claim benefits. And I'm really disappointed in Tony Blair, who is sitting there in his multi-million-pound bubble, luxury bubble, telling people that they need to get on with their day-to-day lives, when actually the disability benefits bill is increasing because what we have is people who have been diagnosed by a medical profession with whatever that mental ill health is. So Tony Blair says, ignore the medical practitioner's diagnosis. I can tell you, with absolutely no medical expertise whatsoever, I can tell you that actually your issue is just normal day-to-day life. Come on, get out of bed and get to work. What Tony Blair also doesn't do is discuss the fact that when we look at this benefits bill, most of the people who are claiming these benefits bills actually want to get back to work. They want to work. They want to be able to enjoy all the benefits that work can provide, but they don't have access to that work. And that's something that funding has to look at. So whilst the benefits bill is rising, what are we saying as a society we can do to support these people back into work, who do, in 1 to 6 months, generally go back to work, by the way?
So, Esther, there are people who will be thinking at this moment, maybe even shouting at the TV, snowflakes, come on. In the old days, what did we do? We buttoned our boots, we buttoned our coats, and we got on with it. We didn't have access to mental health benefits, really. We knew that life was tough, and sometimes it was difficult. Sometimes you went and cried in the lavatory and in the coffee break because you felt so dreadful. And sometimes you spent the whole of the evening lying down on the sofa in a darkened room feeling ghastly, but you still got on with it. Are they right, or are they unfeeling and cold about this?
Well, there's no doubt that people's, particularly young people's, mental health is getting worse and has been getting worse steadily. The question is, what does the state, or should the state, do about it? I don't think, you're right, you can't just get disability benefits just by saying you're depressed. You have to be clinically diagnosed. And even though there's inconsistency around how certain clinical professionals diagnose it, so there's no consistent, definition or diagnosis for depression or anxiety, you do have to go through a medical process. I don't think the state should be in the business of giving people with anxiety and depression disability benefits. And the reason for that is mainly logistical. So you have people with physical disabilities that have actually been complaining and saying, listen, we've been pushed to the back of the queue because now there's so many people claiming disability benefits that the state resources actually just doesn't extend to us. And these are people that cannot work under any circumstances for literal physical disabilities. So there's that. And also, Tony Blair saying that, I think we missed the fact that he's actually a deeply religious man. And I think he's coming from the approach of, actually the community and the church should be looking after people's mental health as opposed to the state just giving out, financial handouts, which I would agree with.
Start to take calls because they are pouring in thick and fast. And thank you so much for ringing about this one, which I know is a very sensitive issue. Let's talk to Bianca in Kent about this. Hi, Bianca. Do you think lots of people suffer because real life is tough and that therefore these claims are going up and up and Tony Blair has a point?
No, is the short answer. I'm 49. I've had mental health issues from the age of 15, which have gone up and down, up and down. I trained to be a teacher. I taught for 5 years. I've been off work now for 10 years. I suffer with severe mental health in the fact that I go 2 or 3 weeks and I don't go outside my front door. I can go a week without a bath. I don't get dressed. I'm very lost. I know it sounds really sad. I've learned
it does.
It
sounds very, very difficult, very,
it's
very severe. What would you say is actually the situation with you? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Is it something else? Do you think? What is it?
It is both. But sort of with a mix of I've got psychosis. So I've had it, I say, for so long, and I can remember I've had 6 different types of therapy.
Gosh.
And I can remember being about 24 and him saying, literally, there is nothing we can do for you. Like what you've got, there isn't an actual name for.
Devastating. Are you on any kind of medication, Bianca? Do you take medication for it?
Yeah, I've been taking medication since I was about 19.
Well, I'm so sorry, and it must be dreadful. And thank you so much for your honesty and phoning. And you certainly kicked off this discussion with a really deeply felt story. So thank you very much indeed. We're going to pour of your calls on whether there should be a crackdown on mental health benefits. 0207 862 2222. That's the number. And Derek's on the line in Exeter. Hello, Derek. Thanks for ringing.
Good afternoon, Vanessa. I think it is just afternoon, so good afternoon to you all.
Tell me about Tony Blair and his assessment that actually, although it's very tough and hard to negotiate, quite a lot of anxiety and misery, even despair, is just caused by normal life.
Well, I would tend to agree that life is a tough gig. And actually, I don't think we're open enough about that. We don't teach people coping skills or resilience in coping with the everyday challenges of life.
Excellent
point.
Which
can be very tough for all of us, and especially so for a lot of people. On the other hand, I don't think we should be talking about a crackdown on people who can't work or whatever because of mental health problems, because that risks painting everybody who's got a mental health problem as a scrounger, which we should go nowhere near because it can be very serious. But I think we've got to do more to encourage resilience and coping skills and coaching people.
I mean, I agree with every word you say, Derek, but the thing that eludes me and I don't quite get is how do you teach people resilience? I certainly don't remember being taught much of it myself. How do you do it? How would you suggest doing it, Derek?
I can speak from experience. I suffered from anxiety for the best part of 50 years.
Right.
Linked to a neurological condition I've got, which I've still got and causes me anxiety. I've had to crack on, carry on working and carry on regardless. I'm not saying that is the ideal thing to do. I should probably have taken more advice, counselling and so on, but I think we should do more to teach people about the value of resilience and coping skills. We sadly lack that in education.
I'm all in favour. I just don't know how you do it. Paula, do you have any idea how you teach resilience?
Derek raises a fantastic point, and I have to say that in answer to your question about teaching resilience, my 2 youngest are 8 and 10, and they are being taught resilience in school, and this is a new thing for me.
Right.
My teenager wasn't taught it at all, but now I can see that coming through, and it's really interesting. So they are taught about resilience in terms of how they dress themselves, how they do a task, completing a task by yourself, and what happens if in completing that task by yourself, it goes wrong.
Right.
How do you react to that? How do you respond to that? So it's quite basic, but it's also in terms of managing their emotions. So I hope, as Derek points out, that actually this is something that is going to be rolled out and is something that will
There's clearly a generational divide here. So if you're looking at the people, most of the people, the 750,000 people, extra people that have claimed disability benefits since COVID, they're almost exclusively under the age of 35. And these are people that have either don't have a very long work experience or have never worked before at all. So clearly there's a generational gap here with
who also found themselves in the most
well, yeah, exactly.
extreme
Through lockdown, not
circumstances.
having
exactly. Who could prepare them for that?
I think the dividing line should be incapacitation. So if you have a mental health issue like schizophrenia or bipolar, or you suffer from psychosis, that's clearly an incapacitating issue. Anxiety and depression, I don't think qualifies as the kind of incapacitating issue where the state should step in.
Well,
I think in those instances it's better to be community
because
focused.
Adam's on the line in Buckinghamshire, and Adam, I know it's been a hell of a struggle for you. Can you tell me what's going on now? Thanks so much for ringing.
Well, hello there, Vanessa. Good morning, afternoon, sorry, to all of you. I'd just like to say to the lady on the left there, she hit the nail on the head for me by saying that I'm 57. And basically, I've struggled, and I don't really agree with what Tony Blair said about, just get up and go, because I do want to work. I've worked all my life, and the lady...
Just out of interest, Adam, what sort of work, what line of work were you in?
I was in the building game since the age of 14.
Right, so you want to work, it's what you want to do. So what has happened to stop you being able to?
I had a bit of a breakdown and suffered mental health problems. I struggle with learning difficulties, and just really truthfully was homeless for a while, and just basically struggled. And there's a lot of people like it. And the good lady on the left turned around and said that, there's people out there that are sitting there telling us how much money there is and how much money they got, and they don't have bad problems, but we do.
Adam, do you agree that we would never hear somebody being spoken to if they had a broken leg or a broken hip or whatever and they couldn't work for 6 weeks or 6 months? We'd never hear that discussion. But mental health, actually, you're just lazy and you just can't be bothered to get up.
No, that's not true at all. I get up the same time every morning, 6:30 every morning, wanting to go to work. It's just having the help and the guidance to get help.
Are you
when
seeing
you don't
any
use a computer?
Are you seeing any light at the end of the tunnel yet, Adam?
Gradually.
Good.
Gradually.
Good. I hoped you'd say that.
Nothing's a quick fix.
No, I'm hoping that things will get better for you. And thank you so much for ringing. Let's talk to Suzanne in Norfolk about this. Hi, Suzanne.
Hiya.
Hello. What do you think? Is it just life, or is mental health something that can affect someone so badly they really can't work?
Yeah, I agree with the lady on the right. That I think there is. The reality is, no, they should. It's not always about life. Sometimes it could go really far. The mental health issue could go really far to the point of like suicide and stuff like that. And I think really they'd be better off, instead of taking money off people, they should be looking at the cause of what the problem is and why it happened. It could be sexual abuse in childhood or whatever. You just
Tell
don't
me something.
know.
Have you ever been up against that sort of situation yourself where you haven't felt able to work?
Yes.
And if you look into your own history and your own life, have you got some kind of insight into why or what went wrong with your life that you felt so very mentally, unable to work?
Well, for a start, sexual abuse as a child.
Oh, dear.
I've also got learning difficulties. So, there is that sort of thing. It can be hard going.
Very much so. And how's it going for you now? Have you had any help? Have you managed to sort of conquer it in any sort of way, or is it still as difficult as it's always been for you?
It's been as difficult as it always has been.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, very difficult. And are you one of the people that Paula was talking about who would very much love to work? It's just it hasn't been possible.
I have worked, and at the moment I can't work because I've had, it's not just for mental health, but also for learning difficulties, but also I've got physical health as well.
Goodness, it's all happening to you at once. There's some very good wishes from all of us. And thank you for ringing. Let's talk to Veronica in Hertfordshire. Hi, Veronica. Do you think Tony Blair's been awfully tough about this, or do you think he's right?
No, I think he's totally wrong to speak from his high tower, in the sky somewhere with loads of money. And I don't think we should ever judge somebody who's been to a professional and been given advice you're not well enough to work. I mean, we're not here to judge, and there's far too much judgment nowadays with the internet and everything. I hate the internet because of that. And I just want to say something about Paula. Paula, you're always the word of reason, and whenever you're going to be on the show, I think, thank God, we've got somebody today who's going to speak volumes of sense. Wonderful.
I think one of the reasons that Paula's the voice of reason is that she works face-to-face with families.
Yes.
Every day of her life, that's
Yes.
your job. And so you
Yes.
see people in the throes of all these difficulties.
I see people in the throes, and Vanessa, I see people losing their children because they have diagnosed mental ill health, but they cannot access the resources that they need to get the treatment that they need so that they can care for their children. They want to care for their children.
Sometimes it's weaponised against them, and the ability to care for their
Absolutely.
children.
They want to go out to work, but the resources aren't there. And the other thing that I think is really important to say is, we've got Tony Blair telling us that we're spending too much money on disability benefits, and the previous Conservative government told us we were spending too much. The reality is, speak to the people who work in the mental health service. They will tell you how cash-starved this service is.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for all of your calls on this. Very emotional calls and very tough to make. Really appreciate it. Thank you.